There's still books you haven't imagined, that you don't yet know belong to you. That looks to me like a world of possibility. That's an awesome place for a writer to be. I hope you all will dwell to establish a $3,000 merit-based scholarship. And a beloved MFA faculty member who is shyly sitting here right now. The award goes to an MFA student who demonstrates exceptional promise and merit through their creative and critical work. Recipients are selected by a rotating committee of MFA faculty. I will echo the words of Bob Murray, Alma College's Vice President for Advancement, who said, philanthropy like this strengthens Alma College in lasting ways. By honoring alumnus Jim Daniels and supporting talented MFA students, this gives
I think I'll leave the mic here. Okay. I am honored to announce the inaugural recipient of the Jim Daniels MFA Writing Award, which is given to a graduate student who has demonstrated exceptional creative and critical work. While we wish we could give this honor to every deserving student, at this point, we have the capacity to award it to a single recipient. This individual has exemplified an openness to experimentation and willingness to produce innovative and dynamic work, and more importantly, an ever-expanding capacity to learn. With each term in the Alma MFA program, her work has grown considerably due to her commitment and discipline to the writing practice, but also her commitment to move forward the way that we talk about poetry and nonfiction. As a writer and a human being, Alyssa Evans embodies the expansive and empathetic spirit of our community. And we look forward to how her spirit, talent, and strength will continue to impact and inspire those around her. Please help me in congratulating Alyssa Evans and being the inaugural recipient of the Jim Daniels MFA Writing Award.
Let's give out some more hardware. Okay. It is now my great pleasure to present the Alma MFA Book Award. The Alma College MFA Book Award is held in partnership with experience, but also powerful opportunities. Running Wild, which is well known in the publishing industry as a quality small press that produces beautiful work, is looking for talented writers and exciting manuscripts. It's a perfect partnership. The winner of the 2026 Alma MFA Book Award is Kenton Smalley for his manuscript, Country Matricide. The editors loved the gritty voice and the plot. They said, while absurd, makes sense for two people who are addicts and have intense trauma. Alma faculty member Karen Bender sent these words. Karen says, I remember the first day of our first workshop with me and Danielle, the first week of the Alma program. Kenny Smalley was one of the 4 members of the class, and I remember Danielle and I talking about how dazzled we were by his work, the sentences, the observations, the way he brought his characters and community in rural Michigan to life with a dark humor and characters' economic and psychological struggles, with imagery that brought to mind Dennis Johnson or Colin Barrett. Kenny Smalley is an original, and working with him for 2 semesters at Alma and hearing about his work after he graduated has been a great joy as one of his teachers. How wonderful that his novel, Country Matricide, will be published by Running Wild Press, and he is being honored by Alma. I'm so excited to see his work in the world. Kenny, the Alma community celebrates you and your deep and funny and amazing work. Congratulations, Kenny. Like I said, we're giving out hardware. Come on, Kenny. We will now have student presentations.
Not giving up. More than the fuchsia funnels breaking out of the crabapple tree, more than the neighbor's almost obscene display of cherry limbs, shoving their cotton candy-colored blossoms to the slate sky of spring rains. It's the greening of trees that really gets to me, when all the shock of white and taffy the aftermath, the leaves come, patient, plodding, a green skin growing over whatever winter did to us, a return to the strange idea of continuous living despite the mess of us, the hurt, the empty. Fine then, I'll take it, the tree seems to say, a new slick leaf unfurling like a fist into an open palm. I'll take it all.
And I am going to read a poem by Joy Harjo called Remember. Remember the sky you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away to night. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are, red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life who all have their tribes, their families, their history. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember, the dance language is that life is. Remember.
The Alma MFA scroll was introduced by the first graduating class in summer 2023 as a message in a bottle. Since then, it's become tradition for each graduating class to add their advice, wisdom, experience, jokes, and encouragement of students. Here's our additions. I did 3 because I do what I want. First, there are no rules. Second, you can't pick the voices in your head, but you can choose which one gets the mic. And then the last one is, say more.
Mine says, don't let anyone or anything take your sense of identity. You are a writer.
So mine is based on the understanding that you've read Sylvia Plath. So if you haven't done that, you need to do that. My advice is to eat all the figs.
Hope is putting pen to paper and trusting there is ink.
The 5th anniversary of the Alma MFA, and because the scroll has run out of room, we are also presenting the next keeper with a second scroll to contain the wisdom of future graduating classes. I have had the pleasure to get to know this student over the past year and a half in the fiction workshop. In her work, she is insightful yet compassionate, curious about the lives and motivations of other people in a way that clearly shines through in her realistic and engaging characters that burst from the page. Outside of the classroom, she is witty, sharp, and always takes the opportunity to laugh. I'm honored to know her both as a writer and as a dear friend. The next keeper of the scroll is Claire Whitliff.
Thank you. I now invite to the podium faculty Matthew Gavin Frank, who will introduce our degree ceremony speaker.
This hat's blocking that. Okay. Megan Stielstra writes every day, sometimes on the train, longhand, in a moleskin notebook, beautifully haunted by Kafka's diaries, Faulkner's A Light in August, Hubert Selby Jr.'s Last Exit to Brooklyn, pacing, punctuation, adverbs, the seeming ubiquity of uncertainty and the joy of performance. What a mind-blowing privilege it is if a reader spends their time in your book, Stielstra says. I want my work to mean something for them. I want it to be challenging. I want it to be engaged. I want it to connect. I recognize the gift of time is enormous. Megan Stielstra is the author of 3 collections, Everyone Remained Calm, Once I Was Cool, and The Wrong Way to Save Your Life, which was selected as a best book of 2017 by the Chicago Tribune, Chicago Magazine, the Chicago Public Library, the Rumpus, Bustle, and Book Riot, and was the Chicago Review of Books Nonfiction Book of the Year. No wonder the writer and cultural critic Roxane Gay called the book masterful, alongside other critical praise, including genius, masterpiece, beautiful, wise, compassionate, and irrepressibly funny. Stielstra's work appears in the Best American Essays, New York Times, The Believer, Poets and Writers, Tin House, Long Reads, LitHub, and elsewhere. A longtime company member with Second Story, she has told stories for National Public Radio, the Museum of Contemporary Art, Goodman, Steppenwolf, Victory Gardens, the Neo-Futurists, and theaters, festivals, and classrooms across the country. She's an acquiring editor at Northwestern University Press. I read and experience things that have nothing to do with my tiny bubble of the universe, Stielstra says, and that crack something open for me. And I think I can be better because of it. And today, you all, I think we can be better for Megan Stielstra's being here with us. Megan Stielstra.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm so pleased to join Sophronia and the MFA faculty in honoring this year's graduates. Congratulations on earning the monumental distinction of Mastery of the Fine Arts, where in addition to your individual specializations in fiction, creative nonfiction, and poetry, you now hold the necessary skill set in written storytelling that will allow you to tackle any genre and make it your own. Someday down the line of your life, you may find yourself, as I have recently, studying the genre of the commencement speech, watching countless videos of prestigious artists and thinkers trying to explain the thrilling, infuriating, sometimes lonely, often maddening, and always surprising work of living to young people on the precipice of their lives. I love commencement speech. That you'll get burned. Part of this is the nature of a low-res program, which brings together artists who are already working professionals, but mostly it is the 4 of you and the deeply personal mountains you have moved to get here. You are already teachers, faith leaders, engineers, theater artists. You have families, partners, children. You've found and lost loves, gained and lost jobs, bought and left property. You've had spiritual awakenings and crises of faith. And you're making art in a world that is not always kind to artists. And still, through all of this, you have kept showing up to the page for the very unglamorous work of finding words for how we survive. Thank you. I have moved some mountains, most recently in 2020, when I found myself quite suddenly a single mother. My son and I lived in 4 states that first year of the pandemic, chasing work wherever I could find it, and I didn't write survival. My then crisis of faith was wondering if I'd ever find my way back to the page. You will have years like this. I beg you, be gentle with yourselves. The writing process is more than building sentences. There were 2 things that I'd like to talk about that helped me get back to the page. My mother told me that over her dead body, could I give up writing? She'd always encouraged my work, from when I was a teenager in Southwest Michigan, scribbling in journals, to now a year into 50. She too was a single mother, an elementary school teacher. She didn't have a ton of resources, but man, she even when, especially when, it seemed impossible. I know that today's graduates have such people in their corner, and I would like to take this moment to honor their parents, partners, children, teachers, friends, and mentors in this room today. Thank you. The other thing that brought me back, an article that I read about the planet Venus. It was more than that, I'm sure. By the time that article found me, I had built my reading life entirely around the idea of survival. Grace Paley and Tilly Olson showed me how to write as a single mom, Pema Chodron, how to deal with fear, Deborah Levy, how to begin again. I can keep going and going, listing the writers who helped save me, but the takeaway is this: your work will be that for someone. Your words will be the thing that brings them back. I'd just gotten back to Chicago. My son and I had a place on the north side near my new job and his new school. A bunch of his friends were hanging out in the living room while I read in the kitchen, looking at new, just published visible light images of Venus. 3 of my MFA students were also scientists and reading their Parker Solar Probe, 1,000 17, the lush blue and green with swirling polar ice NPR calls Venus Earth's evil twin. I have thoughts about the evil twin being named for the feminine goddess of love and beauty, but that's another talk. These new images were taken, not on a specific mission to Venus, but, and I dearly love this quote from NASA, as the Parker Solar Probe zoomed on by on its way to touch the sun. Already, I have questions. Let's start here. We're trying to touch the sun? Might this be a place for the enduring question so eloquently posed by my teenage crush Jeff Goldblum in the original Jurassic Park? Yeah, we could do this, but dude, should we? I am no scientist, but Icarus's wings melted off in 2000 BC, and I don't think the sun has changed much since then. So there have been so many times during this past decade of our American political discourse, and frankly, my own personal life, and maybe yours too, that I've thought or written or said calls it a waking dream. My favorite is Soulknit. Hope is the axe you use to break down doors in an emergency. She goes on to say, it will take everything you have to steer the future away from endless war, from the annihilation of the earth's treasures and the grinding down of the marginal. To hope is to give yourself to the future. I don't want to light things on fire anymore. I want the future. I don't want arson. Get us through. Which is something I try to do with things I don't understand. And stick with me, what if we all tried a little more of that? We have this beautiful palace of knowledge and opportunity called the public library, where we can go instead of arguing with people on flaming hot garbage websites that pretend that they're about human intellectual discourse. And in that library, thank you, Jean, the science librarian, for pointing me in the right direction, I learned that the guy who developed the Parker probe was a professor named Eugene, and he developed the supersonic solar wind power that allowed this probe to get close to the sun's upper atmosphere, teaching us not only about the sun itself, but every other star in the known universe. I always forget that the sun is a star. I think it's because I'm afraid of getting burned. Just before the Parker probe, to a copy of his seminal 1958 paper, Dynamics of Interplanetary Gas, which you can read for free on Al Gore's internet. And I love this so much. 3, a list to come here. You know you're the cool mom, he said. And I said, hell yeah, I am. They were talking about something that had happened that first brutal year of the pandemic when my son and I lived with my mother in Michigan, and then later in Vegas and Oakland, the year I didn't write, the year I didn't know I would survive. Where were you again? My son's friend asked him. And from the kitchen, I heard his voice. Oh, my mom and I lived on the road. I held my breath. What would he remember about that time? We were having an adventure, he said. You know, a single word can change anything. Your dentist says, oops. Your pregnancy test says plus. Your partner says goodbye. Your child says adventure. It happened that fast. A story about survival was rewritten into an adventure. One day you are graduating, and the next day you are touching the sun. Congratulations, thank you.
It is now time for the presentation of the diplomas. We will present by genre. We will announce the student's name. You will hear an excerpt from their creative theses read by the faculty. They have chosen to do so. And then the student will come up to receive their degree and the hood that marks this achievement. We'll begin. Selena Carranza.
Where did that damn ring go? I torture myself with the thunderous tone of my uncle's laugh blaring through my ears as I look for the damn plastic flower ring he gave me on my 6th birthday. I dig through my memory box, the one that holds my high school graduation cards, a hospital bracelet, high school basketball and football tickets, marching band medals, but no ring. All of these memories strewn around me like an art project. It was a cheap ring. Why would I have kept it? How could I have known he would die? I was a child. I was a child. The poet Selena Carranza.
With grace. So many choose to demonize the wait like it's bound to be forever, but it enriches the moment that makes us feel alive. God, we only get this once, this one anticipation in this one life. And that anxiety that comes from waiting can feel like pain, I know, but it's soon enough that we'll be watching the new season or reading the next book or driving to Grady. One day and find they're grown and moving away. And I'm telling you this as a way of saying just how delighted I was to drive US 41 this morning after dropping my son off at school to find our Starbucks, the one where people know me, the one where I have written countless words and had countless conversations, the one 2 blocks from my house, the one that has been under construction for well over a month, making me go out of my way for coffee. Yes, our Starbucks has reopened, and I can't wait to be back inside. I have a place to park my car and a personal cup in my backpack. And I want to write about limits and anticipation, because this, too, is a joy.
Alyssa Evans. Self-portrait of my knees. One fall, who stands the tallest vertebrae tower on their plate? But our dad always loathed the taste of those lower class crab cakes. A particular predicament, my legs crystallized his paternal patellar ligaments. How far I've journeyed from home. Walking is kneeling and standing together. The poet, Alyssa Evans.
Gretchen Vogt, From the People You Meet in Sex Therapy, a novel. On the L back to her apartment, Clarissa watched the apartment building slide past the window she faced. She thought about the apartments, the lives of the people who lived there. Each little yellow window contained a snapshot of someone else's evening, someone else's life, someone who was boiling water for pasta on their gas stove, someone who was painting or watching TV or holding the tiny hand of their toddler as they took their first steps. And all the choices those people had made throughout their lives had led them to being in an apartment above the train tracks in a room lit against the darkness, while Clarissa's had led her to sitting on a train watching the apartments go by. And was there anyone looking out of their window at the train, she wondered? She thought then unexpectedly about her 8 mice. Text hands, pulling them from their enclosure of the night. The writer, Gresham Vogt.
Congratulations to our graduates. No advisor will be waiting for those pages at the end of a month. There may be a brief moment when this feels like freedom. And then you have permission to discover that the book you thought you were writing is not the book you need to write. You have permission to become fascinated by something entirely new. You have permission to try another genre, to write badly while you learn something, to abandon a project that has taught you everything it had to teach you. And recognition. And you also have permission to remember that neither of those things is the measure of whether your writing matters. Most of all, you have permission to become a writer that you cannot yet imagine. Because the person receiving this degree today when it comes quickly, when the writing is fast, there are times when it won't come quickly, when it'll be slow, doors that open, there will be doors that just remain closed. And you're going to feel absolutely certain sometimes of your vocation. And then moments when you're going to wonder, why am I doing this? But through it all, I hope you will remember this community and learn what you learned here. How to return to the page, how to pay attention, how to trust your curiosity, and how much better the writing life is when we refuse to live it entirely alone. So go from here and surprise us. Become the writers you don't yet know. Cheering you on and waiting to see what comes next. Congratulations to our graduates. And now, please rise. Drew Downs will offer our benediction.
Friends, we gloriously joy in the creation of worlds, portals to new dimensions, parallel and true, inspiring whimsy or terror, sorrow or elation. And each of us has been charged with the work of levitation, defying the confines of gravity, in living color, with dialogue and frustratingly, undefinably poetic, fictitious, and factual all at the same time. But this is our work, human work. This is our world, and we make it ever more beautiful together. May the spirit that drives you draw us together. May the spirit that challenges you inspire us all. Always. Amen.